Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today, virtually, but still here, and speak a bit about the near future for tourism and adventure experiences in Europe. Maybe I should start by briefly introducing the European Travel Commission. We are an organization made up national tourism organizations. So we are deeply rooted in all types of tourism experiences. We are based in Brussels. We work a lot with the European Commission, also on promotion of Europe as a tourism destination. And we are currently chairing the organization that unites all representatives of the tourism industry towards policymakers at European Union level, the European Tourism Manifesto. I would start today by reminding you about how devastating the impact of the current crisis has been on the European economy and specifically on tourism. The lockdown measures and the almost complete ban on travel has put tourism to a halt. It was virtually not happening in the last few months. And the consequences for the SMEs related to tourism, these family businesses, the seasonal workers, the travel agencies, airlines, the whole travel ecosystem have been and continue to be severe. To put it simply, there's no income coming and fixed costs are still there. So it's just a matter of time until money runs out and people go out of business. Now, this is even more serious if we consider that actually tourism is extremely important for employment in Europe. In the European Union, our sector employs more than 22 million people. That accounts for 11% of the total EU employment. And according to the latest estimations from the World Travel and Tourism Council, 14 million of these jobs are at risk. And the best case scenario, because this presumes that some travel in Europe will restart in the following weeks. In the worst case scenario, up to 30 million jobs could be lost. OECD calculates that worldwide, the international tourism economy might lose between 60 and 80% this year, again, depending on the duration of the crisis and the speed with which we manage to go back to something similar to normal, but not exactly. Tourism jobs are important also because tourism employs vulnerable groups. We're talking about, as I mentioned, seasonal workers, part-time workers, a lot of young employees. 13% of the tourism workforce is under 25 years old. So it's really door opener to the job market, and 58% of everybody working in tourism is actually female. So it's really essential to resume travel as soon as possible for its economic benefits. And it's very important to save the sector at this time. Keep it up, keep it afloat. Rough seas now, but maybe it's also an opportunity for a better future. When we talk about resuming travel, we don't talk about going back to what it used to be, because for the moment this is impossible, and it's probably going to be the case for the next year or more. We emphasize a lot to especially policymakers, specifically the European Commission, that we need a very harmonized approach. We are in this together at the European level, but also globally. Harmonization is a key. The removal of restrictions to travel and the border openings need to be harmonized. The protocols that would allow travel to restart would need to be accepted universally, or at least in Europe at EU level in all different member states. If not completely the same, they should be mutually recognized. And we also need a common effort in reinstalling confidence to travel in Europe. The European Commission and the national governments are already doing a lot to help tourism businesses, because it's maybe the hardest hit sector by the crisis at this moment. What we as an organization would like to see is a more centralized approach and having the European Union intervening with funds directly rather than channeling those through the different member states and regions. And the reason for this is that speed is key. It's really because we're dealing with small medium enterprises, mostly actually micro enterprises and family businesses. We really need to get to them fast, because otherwise they don't have the capacity of staying afloat without any income for a longer time. There are a lot of measures in place. We have loans, grants, unemployment schemes. There are some things which are still missing from the big picture. There is a lot of consumer protection, which is really not adequate given the current time. So much more is needed to be done for cash flow problems. I'm talking about having vouchers instead of refunds, for example. And we also need to work more on the harmonization of opening for travel, especially at EU level, because whatever protocol we want to adopt, and the protocols are actually already there. We have the European Commission published a month ago a list of guidelines how to resume operations in the hospitality, and also how to go back to normal connectivity, step-by-step restoration of transport services. WTTC has prepared, after a long working session with different governments around the world, protocols for all subsectors of tourism: hospitality, outdoor retail, aviation, including airports, cruise, tour operators, including convention centers and MICE tourism. The solutions are there. They're very much traveler focused. So they are not, they're trying to really take the experience into consideration. But they need to be adopted universally, and especially in Europe, because people are used in traveling into Schengen space, which is very, very seamless. There are no borders, and everything has been working pretty nicely until now. We didn't notice it, but now we do. This is currently not the case. Even in Europe, when we talk about reopening, and officially reopening of tourism started on Monday, the measures are not harmonized. There are some countries, for example, where they test you upon arrival, and countries that don't do that. There are countries that have a list of other European countries for whose nationals they require a quarantine of 14 days. So, of course, this is not helping a lot to instigate people to travel or to make them feel confident about how much their experience will be worth it. And just to conclude, to focus a little bit on the positive side, with every crisis, there comes a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. And for European tourism, that would be the opportunity to restart in a better way, to restart in a more sustainable way. And I think this is where mountain biking and adventure travel in particular would play a very big role. We do a lot of research, and ETC publishes regularly a study called the Long Haul Travel Barometer, where we learn more about the motivations and barriers for travelers to come to Europe. Of course, the beginning of this year showed us that confidence is very low. Actually, Europe is closed for people who are not from here at the moment. But on the positive note, when thinking about visiting, overseas travelers are really focusing on lesser known destinations and safe environment, and destinations that invest into protecting their nature and culture. And spending time in nature is going to be a big motivation, is on the top of the list of travelers as a reason to go to Europe. So we see even currently, this is a great idea to actually promote these activities. People may be in the dreaming rather than the planning stage, but such efforts would most probably pay off very well in the future. For the current summer season, we rely entirely on inter-European and domestic travel, regional travel, and it's more sustainable from a lot of points of view. Normally, European Travel Commission does promotion outside of Europe, but currently we are focusing on a special campaign that actually targets Europeans and tries to open their eyes into rediscovering the continent they live in. We will share a link with you of our current campaign. I think it will be very interesting because it focuses a lot on nature, outdoors, remote areas, the feeling of breathing and being in calm and in symphony with nature. I hope that you could also share it with your networks and stakeholders and audiences. I will cut it off now and happy to take any questions in the Q&A.